Hey, Thrand here. Today I'm going to be addressing Demomanchaos. I believe his name is Demomanchaos. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. But you wanted to know which one was more powerful. The underarm grip, which you normally see in a lot of reenactment, uses it. Where I don't know if y'all can see this, but I'm holding the Overarm 6, so I have no cameraman. But I'm holding it this way, and I get extreme distance. And it can be up under the arm. It doesn't have to be down below. You can find a better grip if you don't want it so long out that's comfortable to you as well. This one feels a little better here, but that's because this is not really a dory weighted that way. This is a Viking style spear. It's all I've got to test with. I'm going to use it today as a real spear. A lot of the drawings, you'll see stuff like this, where they're holding the spear, even with it back to here, and like the depictions, people go, we can't trust the vases. But a lot of these, when you see that, you don't see the frog sticker on the back, the counterbalance, that you see on the typical dory in a lot of these old Greek drawings. Or sometimes you even see the lanyard, I forget the proper name for it, but it wraps around the spear. So usually that was about in the middle of the balance, and a lot of times people believe it was wrapped in a way to put spin on it as a javelin. So if they were fighting with it like that in the balance, then that makes perfect sense that at any time they could throw this thing, you know? But, I mean, if you're actually fighting with it, people have argued that if you had a really tight formation, it's extremely tight, where these things are overlapped like halfway, this would be the only way you could possibly fight with it. But the two things about this, if you notice, we're going to do a whole video, we'll do a whole video explaining the different uses of how it could possibly be used and so on. But this would be close up. This is not a long-range attack. If I hold this where I'm comfortable, this is something that I think is what you see is normally in single combat on most of the depictions. I mean, I could be wrong. You might find me a depiction where they show an actual phalanx with the men in that position. But from what I've seen, it's normally a single combat thing. And if another man had his, let's say, holding it with the long range to attack you, and you get past his point, this is the problem with all spears and all spear combat. If you get past his point, and you ran in and you had the closer grip, he has a moment to readjust. So you can parry very well with this, and you can thrust over his shield, and a lot of times they didn't have much exposed. If they have the shield out like this, it's hard to do a leg attack or anything. If it's actually held in a position similar, so they draw it flat on the things, but I think it would be more at an angle where you could get around it easier. But just saying, if it's out like that, there's nothing to attack besides that greave if you could possibly hit it, and that's not going to really be a good target. The spear would glance off if you're doing spear combat. Let's say it was a ritualized spear combat. And the helmet pretty much is a full coverage helm. So, and it doesn't stop you from doing this. If I was standing here and I'm parrying and stuff, I can still do this at any time. Just do a little bump up. And my head's comfortable. And go right back to the head of the body. Or just let it hang if I want to relax. And a lot of times you see that it's down like this. Sometimes you see that it's up like this. It's all a preference of how you want that shield to be. You know, if you were in a shield wall all day, you could kind of set this. It's supposed to set on your shoulder. You know, you could sit here and hold it like this so you're not... And either grip, you could be sitting here with this on your shield, and the other guy's shield would be next to it. So you could have that type of grip if that's what you wanted. But it does feel kind of awkward if you have a really long spear, and you have just enough on a dory, because everybody's understanding a dory is around 8-9 feet long. The amount you would have behind it, without it braced against something, feels awkward thrusting, because it's quite heavy at the tip, even with the counterbalance. Where, I mean, theirs may be more well-balanced in a different spot. I'm not sure, I haven't felt the historical, but I do know that you'll get a better balance somewhere around here, and it feels a lot more fencing-worthy. So that's why I'm thinking that's a single combat thing. Plus, at any given time, even if it was a dory you weren't supposed to, I don't know if it wasn't allowed in the rules of the ritualized duel, you could throw it. We didn't do that in our episode, Spartan versus Ninja/Samurai, because we were told that the Spartan never threw his dory, that it was a disgrace to put it down, some of the stuff I heard, and that the Helots that were peltists threw javelins. But I mean, if they had a throwing javelin and had that in their hand, like they tried to do in the episode, then yeah, I'm sure they'd probably start off this way. You could fight with it that way too. It's not that you cannot fight with it this way. You can come underneath, you can do all kinds of stuff with it. And a lot of depictions you'll see stuff like this, where the spear's way back. Well, when I had trouble in that video and I was having trouble with it getting caught and grabbed, it couldn't have been grabbed this way. If I had it back like this, or I had it up, even back like this, or even near my head, he wouldn't have been able to grab it. And you could thrust from this position. You could have it all the way up and thrust, so you get more arm. So today we're going to test it, see what kind of force I can get with it. And it's going to be kind of hard to see the results unless I get somebody to come out here with me. But I was going to see how hard I can push with this. That's kind of my idea. I'm going to push against the scale, which isn't secured very well, but it should press up and give me some idea. Not a perfect scientific analysis, don't freak out everybody. But give me an idea how much force I can put behind it using my arm and so. So at full extended thrust, I'll try just pushing into it at first and see what I get. This is to get power. I'm going to put it into an optimal position. Ah! Some body weight behind it and everything. Ah! I got to about 45 pounds is what it's saying right there. That's just me pushing, not a thrust. This is where we should have acceleration with it. Let's go ahead and set it back up. Again. This time we'll try something different. That one was about right here. I'll try up real high and see if it's better. I'll be leaving my whole body weight behind this and using it like a clutch pants or something. I'm getting around 60, 65 pounds. So yes, Demoman is correct on that. You can get a lot more force than that I can feel. When I was down low pushing, trying to push up in the lower position. One more time. I can only get to about 40, 45 pounds. So right now we're just testing on force, power. I'd be pushing. I know you're taking my word on this. I'm sorry, I hate to do it that way, but I'm just doing it to see what I get, and I'll tell you the measurements. 45 from down low, up high, and I almost do it at clutch lance position, trying to see how much force I can get in the body. I'm getting about 60, 65. Let's see what happens if I bring it over. This is just a test on pressure. I got 50 pounds. So on that middle range under the arm motion, where I got the really bracing kind of, I got 65 pounds. So actually that felt more powerful, to me at the time than the other. And I've done that spear combat. I have taken a spear, put it under my arm, and just thrusted with it that way. I mean, because your whole body is moving into it, and you're going to get more body behind it. But remember, this doesn't account for acceleration. But no, I couldn't get as much pressure behind that arm going that way, which is not acceleration and impact and thrust. Because, I mean, you could thrust through something by accelerating something really fast, like throwing it, and get a really good penetration. So now what we need to do is we need to actually do something with the thrust. And we'll try that, some of the ideas I had to test to see how well. But it appeared that that middle posture was superior to the overhand, and the overhand was somewhere in between. So that's not exactly what the people had told him, that the overhand thrust was superior, the overhand grip, not the underhand. So what I'll start off with is we want a full range of motion, but I'll start off with just a position like if you were in a foul ice. And I'm going to let you see what's going on. This is so I have room behind me. We're locked up or whatever, it had to be over. But let's say I had it down below, which is probably not something they ever did. We'll just start off in here and see what kind of power that we get. Because you can do this in single combat. I'll try to thrust it low. We'll do one of our low blows. Ah! And remember, this is a blunted tip. It's supposed to be set up for a reenactor spear, but it's got a sharp edge. It's not. This is not totally scientific, but it's a half a thumb or a half an inch. Is what I got. Pressing wood and going to this wood. About. I'll come back in a minute. I'll stick something in there and actually measure it really good. But that's what I got from that. Now, if I put more oomph behind it, like let's say I draw this way the heck back, like I was saying you could do. Because even with that grip, I can pull this way the heck back where I'm almost hiding it with my shield. Now maybe we'll be doing this in phalanx, but let's see what force I can get by actually kind of throwing it. Ah! Well, it's not real fair because we hit too close to the edge and we split wood. About 3/4 of an inch. So just that motion of me taking it. See, there's a lot of variables to this. me taking it, bringing it way back. I'm talking about as far as I can go, and then throwing it, pretty much throwing force into it and thrusting at the same time. I got a lot deeper penetration. Okay. Now we're moving up to the high underarm, and we're going to go ahead and hit that. I hope I can get it right on. But I'm going to do it for like a phalanx position, like you think they'd just be able to thrust, and that's it. They're here, they're in formation, they just get a good thrust in, that's about it. Yeah! We didn't have a lot of range of motion. About a half an inch. Same thing I got from below. Remember, this is blunt force crushing wood, so it's a little bit different than me trying to thrust through something with an edge. But the idea is we're just checking power. What kind of power can I possibly get? And the next one, I want you to see the holster in a minute. The next one, I'm going to go ahead and really give it everything. I'm going to pull it back, like I said, like you can actually pull this back if you want, and throw it out, which would not be possible with phalanx, probably because you can see behind. Ah! Hit too far. Hard to do that way. Ah! Very difficult to do that way because you have less control over it, although you do get more power. Ah. Same thing, about 3/4 of an inch. Oh. All right, there's a lot out here. I didn't know there's that. My son's watching our videos. Not anywhere near either being any ninja of the kids. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do the over. Now, like I said, you must forward test it just from here. You know, put some force into it. Ah! And lean into it, of course, like I did. Ah. About 3/4 of an inch. And that was just from that, not even a full motion. So it appears it has some power, but I think it has something to do with the throwing. It's not me able to put so much force behind it by pressing, it's me kind of throwing it. So let me try it with that motion. I said, like if you were in a fighting type situation, I had it way back here, you know, to keep it out of the guy's eye range, you know, so he can't grab me, you know, it's like actually, or hide it. I could literally have it set up where if I have a shorter spear, I can hide it. And you can't see if I am coming up under or over or what have you because it's back. Then it comes out, which I didn't do that a lot out of the video. I didn't even think about it totally. I started looking at boss drawings and stuff and realized these guys have these things way back here. And sometimes there's even pictures where it's this way while he's fighting somebody. He actually has his arm that far back. Now that looks like single combat to me. I don't picture that in a phalanx. There's no way to even do a spear that way. It's some Greek combat, you know. So let's try. Ah! Still about 3/4 of an inch. The only thing I can see this useful for is if you're still, like I said, you're doing a spear type fencing thing, I can block and thrust. Block and thrust if I'm just trying to thrust over something. But that's when I have a target. I mean, I may not have a good target. We can do this at any time. He's this way. Boom. Boom. He can cover whatever. He can thrust under whatever he wants to do, duck his head or however. So if this was useful in a tight phalanx, like they said, you would have to have it straight up and down. More than likely, you'd probably be standing like this for a long time. This would be very uncomfortable. I have this shield here, and I was going to go ahead and test again like I did, but with some plywood that I have. It's not the greatest in the world, but it's not damaged at the top. It's a little bit old, but it's not really rotten or anything. It's only in plywood. Kind of not rotten in the area I'm going to be using. For my experiments, it feels like it's about even in the center. But I was going to go ahead and try that underarm real quick on this. This was just for, it's probably not the best medium. The other was a lot more uniform and consistent, where I was getting the 1/2 inch thrust and the 3/4 inch, which they're so small or minute on the variable there. I mean, these could be way more extreme than, you know, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, a hair more than 3/4. I mean, it's because the thing's so dense. And this isn't really sharp, so it's more of a blunt force to see what kind of force we get behind it, power and speed. And I'll try first with the type of thrust the low thrust. And so you can see what I'm doing. That's why I'm doing this. So you can see I've got it about that phalanx style, or like if you were using your shield and the length of the spear. And I'll see what I can do. I got that little half-inch thing that we did on the other one. Okay, let's see what happens if we do the thing where I said you bring it all the way back. You can see what I'm doing. I've got it this way, but at phalanx you might not have room to do that, but you would bring it back. You bring it back as far as you can and throw the spear at the targets. Not the same penetration on this plywood, to be honest with you. Try one more time. Ah! That was about the 3/4 penetration compared to the little half-inch to the 3/4. We got the exact same thing on the plywood. So that was with me taking this, pretty much winding up by pulling it back or starting off in this position and throwing it into the target. Let's try a little higher up, and we'll try the same thing. We'll have it. You already know what I'm doing. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to put a lot of hip in this to try to put my body behind this. Ah! About that same half-inch or a little less. Maybe this plywood, it's going a little less than half-inch, but it's the same thing everywhere. Let's try the same thing from up here. We're going to draw it way back, and we're going to kind of throw it into the target. Yeah! We definitely got a deeper penetration, not by a hair more, almost 3/4 inch, but still over half an inch. So there is a difference between that fuller range of motion. Let's try it overhand now. We'll try how most people would, just a straight thrust. Like if I had it here, I'm ready, you're coming in. And just, oh. Gotta get it right. About a half an inch. Same thing. Now let's see what happens if we do that really obscure, like I've got it back here and throw it into it. Yeah! 3/4 inch. It's that same 3/4 inch. I am determining I'm getting a little more force on this target than I was on the other on the overhand. But that's with this throw. And this is probably what they were doing. If they tested and got way more, they're probably doing it on this. But I'm going to assume they were not even attempting to replicate that on the underarm. They were probably just coming up here and, trying to muscle it with their body. And I got the half inch. But like I said, they could have easily done this underhanded and went, ah! Three-quarter inch. And all I'm doing is the same idea, but this one does seem to have a hair more power just thrusting if you just start off and thrust, but it's a hair. Like you're saying, I'm not seeing it being that big a difference depending on the range of motion. You can get a range of motion this way by coming way back by your head, or if you're trying to hide it behind a shield or something, which you could even do this low. I mean, heck, I could come up and have this in a low posture behind my shield and thrust the same way. Actually, underhanded this way, from way back there, I got more force than I did overhanded drawing it way back like that. Brother war times he was a fluke. Ah! That was almost an inch. It looks like the one I'm getting the most power with here would be overhand, but if you were thrusting up and from way back, I mean, like you would have your spear this way. You would have your spear way back and then throw it into the target pretty much. So as we're talking about accuracy, the problem is how accurate could you be with this in battle? I mean, yeah, I'm sure you could get it in there, but I'm just saying, especially with lots of practice, but this one went deep. I'll get a whole inch that way. But that's me doing this type of thrust. I mean, that's, I don't know how practical you want to think it is or what. Yes, it could be hit behind the shield, and you could come up with it or however, but I'm throwing this into the target pretty much. Same thing I was doing with this when I'm doing this. Of course, I hit a place where it already hit, so I don't know how accurate that is. We'll do the same thing. Back to getting almost an inch. Let's see if I'm correct about saying what I did about this one. It can be done the same way. See it more in a better area here. It's a lot harder to get power with that one in the throw. I think you get the more power from the throwing technique into it if you do it that way. So that may be what they were going for, throwing it into the opponent. This one, I agree, you definitely have more power from. If you were trying to press somebody or put power behind it, you got it. If you were setting for a charge, you got it. But like I said, you're practicing the same thing. I don't know what the difference is in force, but thrusting the same way by drawing it way back, throwing it. But my best thrusts by far were underhanded, but it looks like, believe it or not, this one, the side view. Now they know what it is. Try it one more time. I have no video or anything like this. So. Oh well, it does appear that if you use a complete throwing technique, and I'm saying where you draw it way the heck back, not like you're going to just throw it for a target, but ridiculous, you know, you can get a really good thrust one-handed. So I don't know. One more time. Yeah, I'm getting way better penetration. The question is, how good is my wood? Try that a little bit lower, real quick, just for testing. That's all I got, which is a short thrust for that same technique. Yeah, I'm definitely getting better thrust in that matter. Let's check our wood again. The overhand throwing style, like what I showed, seems to be way more damage if you're from this kind of position. This may be why we're seeing this in Vase draws, and why we're seeing people hiding the spear, like I said, behind the shield. I saw that too. But remember, we don't know what length dory it was, or if it's the one with the counterbalance that was, which this Viking spear probably shouldn't have this. But it's kind of short, so I like it on here. It gives it more balance for the length. Because actually it'd probably be quite longer, and you'd have more weight in the handle, because this is kind of a light wood. It's not like it should be in a really heavy wood. It's just something we put it together with. I'll have to say that on the overhand I can't get more force, but remember, that's not a controlled thrust, you know, or a thrust like this, you know, like you just thrust like people would picture. That's like a thrust. You'd be like throwing this into the target, kind of catching it. Like if you missed, it would look something like this. You know, you wouldn't look all nice and pretty. And, oh, I missed you. Oh, I missed you. Yeah. So if that goes anywhere, hopefully. I try to show what I can do. I tested it. The overhand seems to have more power, but it's because you can do this number. If they're doing this, I don't know if they did this in their testing. But I'm saying you could pull it behind your shield, hide it, and you can thrust. And if you had to, I mean, heck, you could throw it and they wouldn't expect it. So I can see how that was used in single combat a lot, especially if you had something like this you could throw. Because if I didn't know the guy was going to do that, and he's just fighting me, and then he does that to me, I might think I'm far enough back, and that would be the end of me. I'd be dead. I'd have one of those spears in my head. So, anyhow, I think it's a combination of the throw, the range of motion, plus putting the force at the last minute. So like I said, it still feels awkward, but I think that's where the power is coming from, and that's probably what they did when they tested it, and they didn't explain it to anybody. And I doubt they even tried underarm the same way, because I bet you if you hold it to center, yeah, I'm just not getting the same power. You're getting more from throwing it overhand, really. But it's more of a throw, like I said, than an actual. If you test it, don't just thrust it, you're going to have to throw it. You're going to have to put like you're trying to throw it, but from way back here. It's like you're smiting something big time with that. But I like the idea that this is not something you can grab a hold of. If you're holding it like this, they're not going to grab your spear. And if you did thrust and miss, you'd always have a top part to parry with as you're recovering your spear point. Or, if you had the butt spike, you'd be back in our underarm grip. Especially, it would be pretty even. You could go either way if something happened. You could use this as a weapon as well. I don't know. I honestly think there's advantages to both. And the main advantage is lengthwise, you gain range. As long as you're in a phalanx, I think the underarm is actually pretty superior in being able to work with everybody in your group and keep the enemy at range. But if they got in, I could possibly see, now experimenting with it, maybe the front row doing something like this if they didn't have a shorter weapon or didn't want to switch to one. Because at any given time, they could still go back to their traditional underarm grip if they were using underarm and get into a different formation. It probably has specifically to do with what formation they're doing at the time and what type of combat and who they're fighting. So what grip they'd want to use. Single combat, I can see the other one coming up. We'll test that in a later video.